the freedom of the slaves. It was June 19th, 1865, when those Union soldiers marched into Galveston, Texas, and announced to the enslaved people that they were free. That was 2 years after the emancipation was signed. 2 years after the slaves were already free. Now it's a day that we celebrate freedom. We honor and remember the long fight for justice, and we honor those who never gave up. Ms. Green, you asked a question about what it must have been like for those slaves to find out. So let me tell you about a story that's been passed down about this elderly older woman back in Galveston, Texas. When she learned and was told that the slaves were freed, when she was told that she was freed, she was standing in the very fields that she had worked in her entire life. When she digested those words, she stood silently in those fields, scanning, almost studying the acres and acres of land that she had enslaved for her entire life. She didn't move as she tried to process that information. The only time she moved was to look down at her two hands. She looked down at her two hands. See, these were the two hands that she had picked cotton with in those fields. These were the two hands that she birthed so many children into bondage for that field. These were the two hands that nursed the wounds of all those unjustly whipped in those fields. This elderly woman, she didn't run, she didn't rebel, she didn't even rejoice. She simply lifted her head. She turned towards that Union soldier that gave her the information, still fearful of looking him in the eye. And she asked him one question. It's the question that we still struggle with today. If not a slave, then who will I be tomorrow? That question presents an uncomfortable truth. One that society tries to bury, but resurfaces every day. So that even when we are faced with those opportunities, we still don't run, we don't rebel, we don't rejoice. Let me tell you about a story when I was facing a very similar circumstance. As my mom will tell you, when I was in high school, I was scheduled to meet with a counselor the next day to discuss my dreams and goals and post-high school plans. I remember the night before jotting down a bunch of ideas and thoughts, my dreams, who I want to be, where I want to go, maybe the path that I chose or wanted to choose to lead me to the place that I thought would be successful. I remember going to that meeting the next day, and as I start to enthusiastically spit out all those dreams, my goals, my plans, I couldn't help but recognize this look on her face. There was this look of doubt, as if my dreams were too big, my plans were too bold. I remember going home because she had said something to me as I started to talk about further those plans. She cut me off and said, there's going to be two options for you. One, you're going to be dead. Two, you're going to be in jail. I went home and I spoke to my mother about that. And as many of you can tell, my mother did not let that doubt sit long in my mind. In that moment, I felt like that elderly woman from Galveston, Texas. As I was standing in a field of possibilities, but unsure of who I could be tomorrow. My mother encouraged me to move forward. She helped me recognize my worth. My mother's support reminded me of a truth I want every young person in here to remember today. If you remember one thing at all, remember what I'm going to tell you right now. Being in politics, I know. Every day, someone is going to tell you who you cannot be. Someone is going to tell you where you cannot go. Someone is going to tell you the path that you cannot travel. I'm going to tell you this. We're here to celebrate freedom. The most powerful form of freedom is to recognize your own worth. So let me tell you this. Let's not let Juneteenth be just a day of celebration. Let it be a day of reflection. A day when we honor those who waited far too long to hear they were free, by making sure that no one who comes after us doubts that they are in fact free. Let us remember that woman in Galveston who looked at her hands and wondered who she would become tomorrow. Today, we honor her by using our hands, not just to survive, but to build, to heal, and to create, and to carry freedom forward. I want to thank you all for bringing me back here to my wonderful home county of Sullivan County. I want to thank the Sullivan County Democratic Party. For those who don't know, I'm running for Supreme Court out of Albany County. The Sullivan County Democratic Party has been so gracious in their support of their hometown candidate. Again, I want to thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. It's my pleasure to be home. It feels like family. I love you all. Thank you again. God bless.